The hunter knew something was wrong. The forest had gone silent. Not quiet. Silent. No birds. No insects. No distant calls echoing through the trees. Nothing. For 30 years, he had walked through the Amazon. He knew the sounds of the jungle better than he knew his own home. And he knew that silence was never a good sign. The hunter stopped. Sweat rolled down his neck. The humid air felt heavy, almost suffocating. He adjusted the rifle hanging from his shoulder and listened. Still nothing. Then he saw them. Footprints. Fresh. Pressed deep into the wet earth. Small footprints, the size of a child's. The hunter frowned. No children lived anywhere near this part of the forest. The nearest village was miles away, and no child would be wandering alone this deep in the jungle. He stepped closer, examining the tracks. That was when he noticed something impossible. The footprints were backwards. The heels pointed forward, the toes pointed behind. The tracks suggested that whoever made them was walking one way, but the feet were facing the opposite direction. The hunter stared, trying to understand, trying to find a logical explanation. There wasn't one. A chill crawled down his spine because he had seen those footprints before, not in real life, in stories. Stories his grandfather told him when he was a boy. Stories whispered around campfires. Stories older than any town, older than any road, older than any map. Stories about something that lived in the forest long before people arrived. Something that protected the jungle, something that hated hunters. Something that hated greed, something that hated anyone who took more than they needed. The hunter slowly stood. His mouth felt dry. He looked around. The trees seemed taller now, the shadows darker, the silence deeper. Then he heard it. A whistle, short, sharp, coming from somewhere behind him. The hunter spun around. Nobody there, only trees, only darkness, only endless forest. Then the whistle came again, this time from the opposite direction. The hunter's breathing quickened. The stories came rushing back. The red hair, the backwards feet, the laughter in the darkness, the disappearances, the men who entered the forest and never came back. The old people had always warned him, if you see the footprints, leave. Immediately. Do not follow them. Do not investigate. Do not look for answers. Just leave. The hunter looked down once more. The tracks continued into the darkness, vanishing between enormous trees. For a moment, he considered turning around, walking away, returning home. But curiosity is a powerful thing, and sometimes curiosity is fatal. The hunter took a deep breath and followed the footprints. That was the last time anyone ever saw him. The oldest guardian of the Amazon. Long before the first Europeans arrived in South America, the people of the Amazon were already telling stories about the Curupira for centuries, perhaps even longer. Nobody knows exactly when the legend began, only that it has survived generation after generation, passed from parents to children, from elders to hunters, from one campfire to the next. The tribes describe the Curupira as a guardian, not a monster, not a demon, a protector. A spirit whose purpose was simple: protect the forest, protect the animals, protect the balance of nature. The Amazon was never seen as something to conquer. It was something to respect, something alive, something sacred. The people who lived there understood this, and according to the old stories, the Curupira enforced those rules. Anyone who hunted more animals than necessary became a target. Anyone who killed for sport became a target. Anyone who destroyed the forest without reason became a target. And when the Curupira chose someone, escape was not guaranteed. Descriptions varied between regions, but certain details never changed. The creature looked like a young boy, small, fast, almost impossible to catch. His hair was bright red, like fire, like blood, like a warning. But it was his feet that made him famous. Feet turned completely backwards. A detail so strange that it became the symbol of the legend itself. The explanation was simple. The backwards footprints confused hunters. Anyone trying to track him would walk in the wrong direction. Anyone following his trail would become lost. And in the Amazon, getting lost can mean death. The deeper someone wandered into the forest, the harder it became to return. The trees all looked the same. The sounds echoed from every direction. Paths vanished. Landmarks disappeared. Even experienced hunters could lose their bearings. And according to the stories, that was exactly what the Curupira wanted. Not necessarily to kill, but to teach a lesson. To remind people that the forest was not theirs. Many legends describe victims wandering for days, hearing voices, hearing laughter, seeing strange lights moving between the trees. Some claimed they heard family members calling their names. Others swore they saw children running just beyond sight, always close enough to follow, never close enough to catch. The deeper they chased the sounds, the more lost they became. Until eventually they realized something horrifying. They were walking in circles. The forest was playing with them. Or perhaps something inside the forest was. For generations, hunters carried charms to protect themselves. Some offered tobacco before entering the jungle. Others left gifts at the edge of the forest. A sign of respect, a way of asking permission, not from nature, but from its guardian. Because deep in the Amazon, many people believed one thing. The forest was watching, and the Curupira was watching with it. The backwards tracks. Nobody knows how many people have become lost in the Amazon. The number is impossible to calculate. The forest is simply too large, too wild, too unforgiving. Every year, hunters disappear. Fishermen vanish. Explorers lose their way. Sometimes they return. Sometimes they don't. And in many remote communities, there is an explanation that appears again and again: the Curupira. One of the oldest stories tells of a hunter who became famous for killing animals he never intended to eat. He hunted for trophies, for amusement, for pride. The villagers warned him again and again, "Take only what you need. Respect the forest. Respect its creatures." But he laughed. The warnings meant nothing to him. One morning he entered the jungle carrying 3 rifles. His goal was simple: kill as much as possible. Hours passed, then an entire day, then another. The hunter never returned. A search party entered the forest. They followed his tracks. Eventually, they found something strange: the footprints of a child, fresh, leading away from the hunter's trail. The men followed them. Soon they realized something wasn't right. The footprints changed direction constantly. One moment heading north, then east, then south, then back toward where they had started, as if someone was deliberately confusing them. Several members of the search party became lost. Panic spread. The group eventually abandoned the search. Years later, old villagers still claimed the hunter was wandering somewhere deep in the jungle, forever chasing footprints that could never be understood. Whether the story was true hardly mattered, because hundreds of similar stories existed throughout Brazil. Different villages, different generations, the same warning: never follow the backwards footprints. The men who never returned. In many versions of the legend, the Curupira is not interested in ordinary people. He does not chase travelers. He does not hunt children. He does not attack those who respect the forest. Instead, he targets those who exploit it: the greedy, the careless, the cruel. This idea became especially popular during the expansion of logging operations across the Amazon, as roads pushed deeper into untouched regions. Stories began spreading among workers. Stories told quietly after dark. Stories shared only between trusted friends. One tale involved a group of loggers working near a remote section of rainforest. For weeks, everything seemed normal. Trees were cut. Equipment operated without problems. The work continued. Then strange things started happening. Tools disappeared. Freshly marked trees could no longer be found. Workers became disoriented. Men who had spent years in the jungle suddenly struggled to navigate areas they had walked dozens of times before. At first, they blamed exhaustion. Then they blamed each other. But the incidents continued. One worker reported hearing laughter, a child's laughter, deep in the forest. Another claimed he saw a small figure standing between the trees, watching. The moment he approached, it vanished. The workers became nervous. The local guides became terrified. Several refused to continue. They warned the others. The forest was angry. The Curupira had noticed them. The loggers laughed until one of their men disappeared. He left camp before sunrise and never came back. Search teams spent days looking for him. They found footprints, small footprints, backwards footprints, and nothing else. No body, no equipment, no explanation. The camp shut down shortly afterward. Officially, the disappearance was blamed on the dangers of the jungle. Unofficially, the workers told a different story, one they continued repeating for years. The Curupira had taken him. Voices in the forest. The most disturbing part of the legend is not the footprints. It is not the red hair. It is not even the disappearances. It is the voices. According to countless stories, the Curupira knows exactly how to lure people deeper into the forest. He calls them, sometimes using familiar voices, a brother, a wife, a friend, a child. People describe hearing someone they love calling from nearby. The voice sounds real, close enough to follow. So they follow it, and the voice moves. Always a little farther away, always just beyond reach, hour after hour, deeper and deeper into the jungle, until the victim realizes they are hopelessly lost. Several indigenous traditions describe this phenomenon, not necessarily as a physical creature, but as an intelligence, a force, something capable of manipulating perception itself. Many survivors of getting lost in the Amazon report strange experiences, voices, footsteps, the sensation of being watched, feelings of overwhelming confusion. Scientists would point to dehydration, stress, exhaustion, fear, and they may be right. But for people living near the forest, there is another explanation. The Curupira trying to teach someone a lesson, or perhaps trying to keep them from returning. The Night of the Laughter. One story still circulates among river communities in northern Brazil. A group of hunters entered the forest searching for wild pigs. The trip was supposed to last 2 days. Nothing unusual. The men were experienced. They knew the region well. As night fell, they established camp, built a fire, prepared food. Everything seemed normal. Then someone heard laughter, a child laughing, far away. One of the hunters smiled, perhaps a nearby village, perhaps another group. The laughter came again, closer. Everyone heard it this time. The men exchanged nervous glances. There were no villages nearby, no roads, no houses, nothing, only forest. The laughter continued throughout the night, always moving, always circling the camp, never stopping, never approaching, never leaving. Some men refused to sleep. Others prayed. By sunrise, the sounds had vanished. The hunters packed their equipment and left immediately. None of them ever returned to that area again. Years later, one survivor would describe the experience with a single sentence. It sounded like something pretending to be a child. And that was what frightened him most, not the laughter, but the feeling that whatever made it wasn't human. What witnesses claim to have seen? For most people, the Curupira is nothing more than a story, a legend, a piece of folklore, something told around campfires, something used to teach children respect. But not everyone sees it that way. Across Brazil, there are people who swear they have seen something in the forest, something they still cannot explain. Descriptions vary. But certain details appear again and again. The witnesses often describe a small figure, roughly the size of a child, standing motionless between the trees, watching, waiting, its eyes reflecting light unnaturally, its movements impossibly fast. Many claim that the moment they try to approach it, the figure disappears. Not by running, not by hiding, simply gone. Others describe seeing flashes of bright red, almost like fire moving through the jungle, visible for only a second, then gone. Several accounts mention an overwhelming feeling of dread, a sensation that someone is standing directly behind them, watching every movement, following every step. One former guide recalled an experience that haunted him for years. He was leading a small group through a remote section of rainforest. The day had been normal, nothing unusual, until late afternoon. As the sun began to disappear behind the canopy, the guide noticed someone walking among the trees. A child. At least that was what he thought. The figure moved between the shadows, keeping pace with the group, always at the edge of visibility. The guide stopped. The figure stopped. The guide moved forward. The figure moved too. Then something caught his attention. The footprints. The tracks left behind were wrong. Completely wrong. The feet faced backwards. The guide immediately ordered everyone to leave. No explanations, no discussion, just leave. The group returned safely. But years later, he still refused to talk about what he saw. And whenever someone asked why, he gave the same answer. Because I don't want it noticing me again. The red-haired guardian. Unlike many creatures found in folklore, the Curupira is not purely evil. That may be what makes the legend so fascinating. He is not a predator searching for victims. He is not a monster hunting humans, at least not according to the oldest stories. The Curupira is a guardian, a protector, a judge. His loyalty belongs to the forest, nothing else. The animals are under his protection, the rivers, the trees, the balance of life itself. Those who respect the forest have little to fear. Those who abuse it become targets. This idea appears repeatedly in indigenous traditions. Long before conservation became a global issue, the people of the Amazon were already teaching the importance of protecting nature, and they did it through stories. The Curupira became a warning, a symbol, a reminder that every action has consequences. Take only what you need. Respect what keeps you alive. Do not destroy what you cannot replace. Many scholars believe this is why the legend survived for centuries, because it served a purpose. It helped preserve the relationship between people and the forest. But legends have a strange habit. They evolve. Over time, stories become darker. Details change, fear grows, and eventually, the lesson becomes something more. The Curupira stopped being only a guardian. He became a mystery, a shadow hidden among millions of trees, a possibility, and possibilities are often far more frightening than certainty. What if the legend is true? The Amazon covers millions of square miles. It stretches across multiple countries, contains regions few humans have ever explored. Entire ecosystems remain undocumented. New species are discovered every year, creatures nobody knew existed, animals hidden for centuries, waiting to be found. So the question becomes unavoidable. If the forest can still hide real animals, what else could it hide? Of course, there is no evidence that the Curupira exists. No photographs, no verified recordings, no scientific proof, only stories, footprints, whispers, warnings passed between generations. And yet, legends like this refuse to disappear. Despite modern technology, despite satellites, despite roads, despite cities, the story survives. Perhaps because deep down, people understand something important. The forest is still larger than us, still older than us, still capable of making us feel small. And when we enter places we do not fully understand, our imagination follows. Maybe the Curupira is nothing more than folklore. Maybe he is a symbol, a lesson disguised as a creature. Or maybe the people who have lived beside the Amazon for hundreds of years know something the rest of the world has forgotten. Maybe every legend begins with a reason. Maybe every warning starts somewhere. And maybe not every story is entirely fictional. Return to the hunter. The hunter never returned home. Search parties looked for him. Friends searched for him. Family members searched for him. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Nothing, no body, no equipment, no answers. Eventually, the search ended. Life moved on, at least for everyone else. But in the village, the story remained. People still spoke about the hunter, especially at night, especially when the wind moved through the trees. Some claimed they heard whistles in the distance. Others claimed they saw strange tracks near the edge of the forest. A few even claimed they heard someone calling their names from beyond the tree line. Most ignored it. Most stayed away. Because whether the story was true or not, the lesson remained the same. The forest deserves respect. The forest remembers everything. And somewhere deep within the Amazon, far beyond the roads, far beyond the maps, far beyond the reach of cities, there are still places where the shadows feel alive, places where the silence feels wrong, places where people disappear. And if you ever find yourself alone in the jungle and discover a trail of footprints moving in the wrong direction, do not follow them. Turn around, walk away, and whatever you do, do not look back. Because if the old stories are true, the Curupira may already be watching. South Shadows. Dark stories from the forgotten continent. Tonight, we followed one of South America's oldest legends, a guardian with backwards feet, a protector hidden within the world's largest rainforest. But next time, we travel far from the Amazon, to a place where people claim a whistle in the darkness can mean only one thing. Something is coming, and it already knows where you are. The locals call it El Silbón, and some believe hearing him is the last warning you will ever receive. Until next time, stay curious and stay out of the shadows.